Found in a shallow grave behind an abandoned home in Atlanta, Georgia in spring of 1995, her identity remained a haunting mystery. No name, no family, no answers. No one knew her story, and surprisingly, no one knew her cause of death. Investigators followed every lead, but year after year, the case grew colder until last month. In June of 2025, after 3 decades of silence, forensic genetic genealogy finally gave her name back. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, hello, my name is Gabby, and if you've never been here before, never watched any of my videos, have no idea what I do, every single week here on my YouTube, I cover a true crime case. Despite my recent hiatus, which I do have to thank you all for being so incredibly patient during the last month that I haven't been uploading. Today's video is another one regarding the identification of a doe. This one identified very recently, just last month. Even if you have heard of this recent news and dove a little bit into this case, definitely stay tuned because I was thankfully able to get some information regarding her case sent over to me to clear up some confusion that there's been online when it comes to her cause of death. So with all of that being said, let's get right into it. On Wednesday, April 5th of 1995, 6 children made a chilling discovery behind a vacant house sitting at 380 Atwood Street Southwest in Atlanta, Georgia. They stumbled upon the remains of a black female in a very shallow grave. Fulton County authorities were called to the scene, and this would be the start of a mystery spanning 30 years. They located a lifeless body, and they believed this body to have belonged to a black woman. Not a girl, not a teenager, a full-grown adult. Now, occasionally when someone is buried after a crime takes place, obviously the person who took their life may not want to stick around for a very long time and be thorough when it comes to digging a hole, so they will dig a hole just big enough to cram the body down into it. This woman, because at this point they thought she was a woman, was facing straight up on her back in what is referred to as the supine position. She had no form of identification on her, and she wasn't matching any of their local missing persons reports, so due to that, she was classified as a Jane Doe. The Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office told the Atlanta Journal, "It appears that whoever buried her there dragged her face up, then dug a shallow grave." Going on to say, "We think she was a West Ender, that she lived right there in the area." The house she was found behind was noted by Fulton County authorities as being an abandoned location where people would go to secretly produce drugs. One of those drugs they stated was crack cocaine. That's why authorities immediately thought she may have died as a result of a drug overdose because, as investigator Richard Askew stated, she didn't have a mark on her. Her exact cause of death could not be determined. It still is not determined today, but police suspected it may have been due to an overdose or natural causes. While I was researching for this case, though, I came across some sources online, one being WSB-TV, an Atlanta news station, that reported that her toxicology report actually came back negative. This is obviously very important information, but I couldn't locate a source online anywhere that stated authorities themselves or anyone overseeing this case verified that information. Because of that, I decided to reach out to the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office myself, explain the situation, say that I was doing a video about the case, I wanted to clear up this confusion, and see if they could help. They actually sent over her entire autopsy report to me, so I was able to view that for this video, and right there in the report, it states that her drug screening came back negative for common drugs of abuse. Unfortunately, this information still today, even after her identification, is not commonly discussed online, so many are unaware that she did not die of a drug overdose, and that assumption is still spreading around right now. Obviously, I know that not everyone is going to see this video who learned of this identification recently, but I did want to clear that up the best that I could. When it comes to her post-mortem interval, this Jane Doe had been deceased for several days before her body was discovered and was noted as being mildly decomposed. A sketch of this doe was created to the best of a police sketch artist's abilities in an effort to aid identification. This sketch was spread in local papers in the hopes someone would recognize her. According to DNAsolves.com, investigators believed, based on tips, she may have been from the Adamsville area of Atlanta and was known to frequent the Ashby, Dill, and Beecher Street neighborhoods. Also, based on tips, authorities believed it was possible that she was known locally by the name of Wanda, and that she had been seen alive under that name shortly before her death. This is why this Jane Doe was frequently referred to as Wanda or Wanda Atlanta Doe. It was believed for the entirety that this Jane Doe was nameless, that she was an adult, like I said before. Her autopsy report stated that the medical examiner believed her to be between 18 to 28 years old, but later on, reports put her age between 20 to 25. They believed that she stood at about 5 feet 8 inches tall, weighed roughly 140 pounds, had brown eyes, black hair, and a prominent gap in her top front teeth. Her hair had been in tight cornrows, her ears were pierced each one time, and she had a mole at the end of her right foot. Of course, we look different after we pass away, so authorities were unsure of exactly what she looked like while she was alive. Sometimes with John and Jane Doe cases, they will locate pictures of them in their wallet. That didn't occur in this case, so they didn't know exactly what she looked like, but they were able to thankfully take note of quite a few physical characteristics of hers. At the time her body was discovered, this doe was dressed in a light blue short-sleeve button-up shirt, along with a pair of faded Bugle Boy jeans featuring an elastic waistband and drawstring, suggesting a casual and comfortable style of clothing. She was also wearing a pair of black Adidas sneakers, size 6.5, which appeared to be in relatively good condition. Underneath, she had on multicolored underwear with a Tweety Bird manufactured label, which included the phrase, "That's all, folks," a small but potentially meaningful detail that investigators hoped might help someone recognize her. Lastly, lying loose under her body was a single white sock. This was a case that went cold extremely fast, in almost no time. That could be due to the fact that, based on reports, Atlanta's crime rate was high during 1995, with approximately 14,745 violent crimes reported just that year. Violent crimes include assault, sexual assault, rape, robbery, and murder. Although this number in 1995 marks a decline from the 16,097 violent crimes reported in 1990, 5 years earlier, it still indicates a substantial level of criminal activity in the area. With a higher crime rate, it becomes difficult for investigators to put ongoing effort into a case that isn't bringing in any new information, which was the case for this Jane Doe. Law enforcement officers followed numerous leads in an effort to uncover her identity. They explored countless tips, interviewed potential witnesses, and reviewed available evidence, but each path seemed to lead to a dead end. In November of 2007, her case was officially entered into the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System, or NamUs, which is a centralized database designed to aid in the identification of unknown individuals and to connect missing persons with unidentified remains. She was also entered into the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, the nation's largest and most influential child protection organization. They produced an updated reconstruction photo of her to give the public a better idea of what she possibly looked like while alive. Despite these dedicated and exhaustive efforts, her identity remained elusive. With very few new leads or promising information to pursue, the investigation gradually stalled again. Like with many cases, this Jane Doe's was brought up sporadically online in forums, people sharing information and communicating back and forth, hoping to piece together clues to find out who she was. This often included sleuths combing through hundreds upon hundreds of missing persons reports online, hoping that this Jane Doe was ever reported missing and was entered into a database. One woman brought up online as possibly being this Jane Doe was 21-year-old Pamela Marie Johnson, who vanished from Paterson, New Jersey on June 1st of 1990. Similar to this Jane Doe, she was 5 foot 8 inches tall and 140 pounds. Based on photos, it looks like she also had a gap between her top front teeth. She would have been 26 years old in 1995. Some people thought Wanda Jane Doe could have been Pamela, but Pamela was eventually ruled out. People online really did get their hopes up because there were so many similar characteristics between the two, but in the end, authorities verified that this Jane Doe was not Pamela, and this was another dead end. There would, though, be a huge turning point for this case in the year of 2022. This is when the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office decided to take a new approach in hopes of breathing life back into the decades-old cold case. Recognizing the potential of emerging technology, they partnered with Othram Inc., a private laboratory specializing in advanced forensic DNA analysis. Othram is known for using cutting-edge techniques such as forensic-grade genome sequencing and genetic genealogy to identify unknown individuals, even from highly degraded or limited DNA samples. Forensic-grade genome sequencing is a specialized technique designed to extract comprehensive DNA profiles from difficult or degraded samples, such as those found in cold cases. Once a usable DNA profile is obtained, genetic genealogy comes into play. This process combines that genetic information with traditional genealogical research, including public records and family trees, to trace biological relationships and ultimately help identify unknown individuals. Together, these methods have become powerful tools in modern forensic investigations. The goal of this collaboration between the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office and Othram Inc. was to determine whether modern forensic DNA testing could succeed where traditional methods had failed, to finally uncover the identity of this Jane Doe and perhaps provide long-awaited answers to those who might have known or loved her. Othram created a crowdfunding page on DNAsolves.com. The goal was met and the process began. Othram scientists were able to successfully create a DNA profile for the Jane Doe, and from there, the profile was uploaded onto genetic databases, and Othram's genealogists began their own work piecing together her family tree. As this process progressed, something extremely surprising happened. A woman came forward claiming that she might be related to this Jane Doe. This woman told authorities that she thought that Wanda Jane Doe could possibly be her missing sister. To explore this possibility, investigators used the comprehensive DNA profile previously developed for Wanda Jane Doe and conducted a comparison using Kin-SNP rapid relationship testing, which is a specialized tool of theirs designed to quickly and accurately determine biological relationships. This testing played a crucial role in moving the case closer to a resolution. It turns out that this woman was of relation to this Jane Doe. The news of Wanda Jane Doe's identity was released to the public on Thursday, June 5th of 2025. In life, Wanda Jane Doe, also known as Fulton County Jane Doe, was Kiyona Cherri Arnold. She wasn't a 20 to 25-year-old woman. No. She was born on March 1st of 1980, making her only 15 years old at the time of her death. And she was born right there in Atlanta, Georgia. So investigators were correct when they assumed she was a local. I do have to say that information is extremely limited regarding her backstory, but it seems that loved ones of hers had been looking for her, but never connected her to this Jane Doe until recently. We do have to remember that some people are not familiar with the fact that there's entire databases with unidentified deceased individuals on them to compare to missing people. A Find a Grave page was created for her, and it states that she was the daughter of the late Bashan Cerise Arnold, who preceded her in death in the year of 1990. She has 2 older sisters, one of those sisters being the person who came forward to authorities thinking that Wanda Jane Doe could be her biological sister, and she was correct, but her biological father is not listed on the Find a Grave page. Authorities are continuing to investigate into her death because they may not know her cause of death. They don't know if somebody was responsible for this, but someone did put her in that shallow grave and may know exactly what happened to her back in 1995. If you have any information at all regarding the case of Kiyona Arnold, you are urged to contact the Fulton County Medical Examiner's Office at 404-613-4400. If you want to help Kiyona's case from the comfort of your home, you actually can, because her loved ones created a GoFundMe page to help cover the cost of a memorial service for her and a proper headstone. Their goal is $2,400, and at the time of me recording this video, they are only at about $200. If you have the means to, please consider a donation, because every single dollar is getting them closer to the service and grave marker that this girl deserves. If you want to donate, do keep in mind that the memorial service is on the 12th of this month of July 2025. This is definitely a heartbreaking one, because I feel like so many aspects of it were incorrect for a long time, and it's always upsetting to see that happen with any case, but especially one of a teenager or child, someone who was just so young when their life ended. This was a girl, and many agree with this, that may have been overlooked because some people assumed that she was just an adult who chose to use drugs and died of an overdose, and that someone that she was using with simply disposed of her body afterward. I can't say for certain, because of course I don't know every single person that ever came across this case, but if I had to guess, I do believe that there were probably some people for that reason that just tossed this case to the side. She does deserve justice. Someone else has to know what happened to her, and I hope that her family can eventually get the closure that they're looking for after knowing that she's been gone in such an unsettling way for 30 years. I just turned 30 years old on June 22nd, and I can't even fathom a family going the length of my entire lifetime not knowing what happened to their loved one. I know this is said so often in cases, but somebody knows something. Somebody has to know something. And if you think that you know anything, please contact authorities. If there are any other cases that you possibly want me to cover here on my channel, make sure to send those requests over to gabulosiscaserequests@gmail.com. I hope that you all have an amazing rest of your day wherever you are. Stay safe like always, and I will hopefully see you in the next one.